Assalamualaikum. I'm just here to ask Sheikh Green a question which hasn't been rehearsed or scripted. We're here in what looks like the middle of nowhere, but it's actually a very important historical site. And we know in a narration the Prophet ﷺ taught us that Islam will enter every house, meaning every house on this planet. Some people may doubt, is it going to happen with all the political challenges, all the sociological challenges, financial challenges, war, famine, Islamophobia, whatever it is. But how do we keep up our hope in these times?
Because Islam is a totalitarian dictatorship, the inspiration of Muslims and the promise of Allah that Islam will enter every house translates to Islam will subjugate the humanity or the world. This amounts to a Hitlerian type of delusion that can lead to wars and bloodshed. If Allah was real, He would have known that a political system cannot be implemented on a global scale unless it comes freely and organically, like democracy. A political system must be comprehensive and effective in making human life better, not serving some subjective ideal.
Why political Islam cannot be implemented in modern societies, and why Islamists should abandon this futile and harmful pursuit. A. The argument for divine law, flawed at its core. One of the main justifications for political Islam is the claim that divine law must be superior because it originates from an all-knowing God. However, this argument is fraught with serious philosophical and practical issues. First, it presupposes that we know exactly what divine law is. But Islam, like all religions, is a matter of faith, not a demonstrable fact. Most people believe in it due to cultural indoctrination rather than critical inquiry. Islamic theology itself does not encourage questioning, but rather promotes blind faith and unconditional submission. Moreover, the concept of divine hiddenness in Islam, that Allah intentionally withholds obvious evidence of His existence to test human faith, undermines any claim to clear, accessible divine law. If God's will is hidden, then the claim to know and legislate by it is inherently suspect. Even within Islam, laws must still be interpreted by human beings, who are fallible, biased, and historically situated. This means divine law in practice is always human law cloaked in religious authority. The inherently dictatorial and inhumane nature of political Islam. Even assuming Islam were true, it has not been demonstrated in any objective or universal way. Therefore, it cannot claim legitimate authority over people who do not believe in it. Enforcing Islamic law on non-believers, or even on dissenting Muslims, inevitably leads to societal division, sectarian conflict, and civil strife. Political Islam attempts to impose a rigid system derived from the social norms of 7th century nomadic Arab tribes that lived in a vastly simpler, tribal, patriarchal society. Despite its claims of universality, Islamic law reflects the values and priorities of its time and place, not of modern, pluralistic societies. It insists on specific laws not because they are universally just or effective, but because they were believed to be divinely revealed to a specific group in a specific era. These tribes were not equipped to handle the complexities of modern governance, human rights, or global interdependence.
But today you have the message of Islam. I'm giving you the message that is as a guidance for you, something that is guiding you. I will make a challenge for you guys. And this is a big challenge here. Highlight one problem in today's society that Islam doesn't solve. Just one. I'll tell you, doesn't solve. One problem. Just one. Because Islam claims to be the guidance for mankind. Sorry?
Science problem.
What do you mean by science problem? I mean a society problem that Islam doesn't solve.
Islam is not
This is society, we have a lot of problems in society, right? I want one problem in society that Islam doesn't solve. Doesn't have a methodology of solving. Doesn't have a methodology of solving it already. If we apply, we solve. One thing, politics, 100%, we all unite under one leader in Islam. This leader is chosen by who? The people who are experts in every field. Expert in science, expert in every field. In medicine, in religion, in everything. These people gather and they choose a certain leader who... In an Islamic state,
okay,
yes.
Cool. What about...
But here we're living in a non-Islamic state, so it can be a non-Muslim leader. But Islam solves, it gives you a system to solve that.
Muhammad Ali applies the usual Dawah method of sugarcoating Islam to deceive people into the religion. He presents a universal, comprehensive political system, which it doesn't. Islam drives its politics from brief, vague, generalized sentences in the Quran and Hadith that depend on interpretations. That's the reason there is hardly a consensus among scholars and there is so much confusion. The Shia and Sunni cannot agree on whether the rulers should be passed down by blood lineage or Islamic meritocracy, or whether obedience to the ruler should be unconditional or not. Islamism is a failed political system because it's not analytical, at the same time demands unconditional, mindless submission to its rule and draconian implementation. So it disables political tolerance and reasoning without substituting it with a comprehensive system, leading to endless sectarian wars and bloodshed throughout history. In this instance, this moron, after challenging people to find something Islam doesn't solve, in the first response he got, he gave up Islam and advocated for aristocracy in the UK.
All unite under one leader in Islam. This leader is chosen by who? The people who are experts in every field. Expert in science, expert in every field.
Unlike aristocracy, the leader in Islam is not chosen by genuine merit, but by Islamic piousness. And the leader must implement divine law as given by revelations. Islam is a theocracy.
Islam, as a total and final system, cannot be implemented in modern societies because it functions as a totalitarian dictatorship that does not adhere to universal human rights. Dictatorships are inherently flawed political systems because they undermine freedom, which is not just a means to an end, but one of the most fundamental and essential pillars of a just society. A truly good society prioritizes and upholds freedom as a core value. Sharia is not designed to improve societies. It exists to establish an Islamic social order and advance the cause of Allah in this world. Its primary goal is not justice or progress, but enforcing Allah's sovereignty and absolute worship. Sharia demands unconditional submission, not because it benefits society, but simply because it is commanded in revelation. Even if non-Muslims were incapable of creating societies as successful as the ISIS Caliphate or the Taliban, Sharia would still lack authority or relevance for those who do not believe in Islam. In the end, Sharia is nothing more than a rehash of 7th century Arab social norms, attempting to dictate modern life.
People flee these hellholes to come for a better life, and they are more pissed off than I am.
No, you look very pissed off.
Some of the things that are happening in this
So why are you
country.
pissed off?
Because I don't want barbaric things like Sharia law.
We don't have Sharia law here.
That's
What are you on about?
I know we don't.
So what are you on about
I know
then?
we don't.
Why are you pissed
but
off
you
then?
want to ban alcohol.
Would you like to live in a society where the majority rules?
That's called democracy, isn't it? So I guess so, yes.
Okay, so if the majority rules Sharia law, would you be okay with that?
That's not going to happen, is it? Why is he grinning like a Cheshire cat? Like
No answer! Answer my question! Would you be okay if the majority rules?
Comical. It's absolutely comical.
Well, you're the only one who's acting like a clown here.
How am I acting like a clown?
Once again,
Defending the freedoms of the West.
But you believe in the democracy.
Defending freedoms of the West that
Steve.
your parents came to.
My parents didn't come here, don't
Your
worry.
grandparents then. Let's not pick hairs. Your grandparents or your parents
just
came
hold
to
it,
this
brother.
country
Point it to
better
me.
life, and good
Look
on
inside
them.
and
They are
point.
welcome to come here for a better
Would you be okay with Sharia if the majority of us okay with it?
No, I would.
So
no.
you don't believe in
I would
democracy?
leave.
You don't believe in democracy?
So if you believe in democracy, you have to believe in.
So he would go to a country which has no democracy.
Do you see the intellect of this guy? If you believe in democracy, you have to believe in anything. That's just silly, isn't it?
Okay, so do you believe in democracy or not?
Democracy is not just majority rule, it's also a democratic constitution. Going against democracy, like political activism, to establish Sharia in the UK is illegal. And can even amount to the levels of treason, depending on the activism. Also, the UK is a liberal democracy that abides by human rights. Islam contradicts basic human rights and freedoms.
Political systems differ from moral theories and religious dogmas in that they have a singular practical focus: to create better societies. They are not concerned with metaphysical ideals or promises of an afterlife. Ideologues and religious leaders make poor politicians because their primary allegiance is to abstract doctrines rather than to the people they govern. For them, individual and collective well-being is secondary, an incidental outcome, if it happens at all, of pursuing their ideals. A crucial factor in evaluating the success of a political system is implementation. However, ideologues and clerics often cling to their dogmas regardless of whether those beliefs translate into effective governance. Islamists create bad societies because their commitment to religious doctrine takes precedence over the needs of the people. Their political failure stems from caring more about serving Islam than about serving citizens. Democracy, the only legitimate and effective political system. Democracy stands alone as the only truly legitimate political system and the most effective. It's no coincidence that in the modern world, democracy dominates the global political landscape and is often seen as synonymous with virtue and progress. Its legitimacy comes from the perception, if not always the reality, of freedom, justice, and participation. By giving people a voice, democracy creates a sense of ownership and fairness, even if outcomes are imperfect. Democracy is effective because it naturally confers legitimacy to leadership through consent. It also has a self-correcting mechanism. Social pressure is constantly resetting the political agenda. In this way, democracy mimics the process of biological evolution, where no central intelligence governs the outcomes, but rather practical, adaptive rules guide survival and improvement over time. Bad policies lead to public dissatisfaction. That suffering generates political pressure, which in turn fuels political change. This dynamic, organic process allows democracies to evolve, adapt, and improve over time, often in spite of the intellectual limitations of any one leader or ideology. Just like natural selection outperforms intelligent design in biology, democracy, with nothing more than freedom and time, tends to solve political problems more effectively than any top-down rigid system.